A very warm welcome to Kashulia's UK Stories from Both Sides, Inspiring and Resilient. I am Carol Edmondson, a 4-year volunteer with Kashulia UK, an organisation that I love very much, and I'll speak a bit more about that now. A warm welcome to our speakers this evening, Laura Vann LaRusso, Sonia Gupta, and Shane Urel. And thank you, Jag and Sophia, for joining us this evening. I have to keep my eyes out for anyone in the waiting room. But let's get started. For those not familiar, joining us for the first time, Kashulia UK is a registered not-for-profit community organisation to empower and uplift men, but also very much inviting men to contribute, not just on our online events, but also in our in-person events also. The founder of Kashulia UK is Ritu Sharma, a women empowerment ambassador, an author, a speaker, and so much more. Now, Kashulia actually stands for Skilled and Empowered Woman. The organization's main aim is to empower, connect communities, and raise awareness of issues that affect women predominantly. We support women on a journey to create a life of fulfillment through their personal, professional, and financial growth. Projects include support for victims of domestic violence or domestic abuse, and also men, empowering communities, personal and professional development, health and well-being, because we not only meet on Zoom, but we have face-to-face events, including a fortnightly dance wellness session, a DV Craft fundraising session where the volunteers make things to sell, and also Let's Talk Happiness Group, which is one of the ones that I facilitate twice a month. And it's amazing. Kashulia UK is going from strength to strength. And unfortunately, Ritu is not able to join us this evening. It's her daughter's 17th birthday. So precious family time celebrating that birthday. So just before we get started, if I could ask you all to mute your mics, that will be, if they're not already muted, that will be wonderful. And kicking us off this evening, joining us from Brooklyn, USA, we have Laura Vann LaRusso. Give us a wave, Laura. And a little bit about Laura. Who is Laura Vann LaRusso? Well, Laura is an ESOL and communication coach, passionately supports healthcare professionals who speak English as a second language. With a master's in ESOL and New York State certification, Laura's personalized, can't speak this evening, personalized coaching empowers non-native speakers to communicate with compassion and confidence in high-stakes healthcare settings. Drawing on over 15 years of experience, Laura addresses each professional's unique challenges, enhancing clarity, cultural awareness, and trust with patients and families. Her heartfelt commitment lies in easing the communication struggles of dedicated professionals, helping them connect deeply and effectively in English to serve their communities with empathy and skill. Laura, it gives me great pleasure to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me? Yes? All
Yes, we
right.
can.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Carol. I deeply appreciate it. I will share my insights about resiliency. I believe this is our topic, yes, for this evening. First of all, welcome everyone who's attending, and again, thank you, Carol, and hello from the other side of the world, from Brooklyn, New York, USA. I was asked to speak to talk about resiliency and what my understanding of it is, and how I can encourage you and how I do encourage my clients, both current and past, to become more resilient. So, to give you a little insight about my personal background, we could say that I sort of transformed into an online communication skills coach for healthcare professionals in this way by following this path. Number one, I started out as a New York State advocate for immigrant communities. And then I became an educator for K to 12 students who were newly arrived and non-native speakers of English. And that experience then led me to work at the college level and then also as an educator for the workforce development sites that are here in the US. I'd like to learn more about what's going on overseas, but here, suppose someone has had some hard times, has made some not so great choices, and they've done their time. They come out, and we, the educators and facilitators, service providers, give them the instruction they need to become job ready and better able to communicate in English if that is a need that they are looking to fulfill. And then, as you know, we all had this um, mutual experience across the globe of COVID, and that led to the third piece of this transformation and this journey of resiliency, professionally speaking, which is that we all had to reinvent ourselves. And so I chose to look into becoming an online coach. And it's interesting supporting healthcare professionals who speak English as a second language was not my first choice because I did not particularly like being in hospital. I have my own personal history as to why that is, but I saw a great need there. And so that's what I'm doing now. I am seeking out, pardon me, those healthcare professionals who speak English as a second language and who want to enhance their communication skills, their interpersonal communication skills, their access to technical language, and making better human connections with the patients and families that they serve, not to mention increasing their own uh, confidence and clarity in English. You asked me to speak about resiliency, and what I'd like to add is, being the former English teacher, I'm always focused on vocabulary, key concepts in English, and definitions of vocabulary words. So please indulge me. If we look at the definition for resiliency, it says, an example of it says, the ability to recover from difficulties, the ability to recover from difficulties. And so as a communication skills coach for healthcare professionals who want to enhance their English, that's what I'm all about. But how did that start? Well, frankly, I was born with a physical difference. I was born with cerebral palsy, and it gave me an interesting perspective in life. I was always taught to never feel sorry for myself. In fact, pity was not something that was doled out in my family whatsoever. In fact, if I fell or if I struggled, I got two reminders from my family. Number one, if you've fallen, you must get back up. And number two, if you do not get a yes this time, look for a yes the next time. You only need one. And so, in terms of resiliency, certainly it was interesting because I initially moved from denial around my physical difference. I'm not in a wheelchair, I just walk with a cane. So, those people that are in wheelchairs, those are the disabled people. And I just walk with a cane. So, really, I am not a person with a disability. I moved from that arrogance to meeting other advocates as a New York State advocate who taught me about self-awareness, self-acceptance, and actually personal pride in who we are. And that helped create the foundation for resiliency when I found myself being biased against or judged in some negative way in the professional arena, right? So resiliency grows when we become introspective, and it also is fostered when we identify a community of mentors who can help us articulate what we are feeling and then give us those strategies to move beyond whatever insecurities or whatever those obstacles are that are preventing us from becoming more resilient. And finally, I became an educator out of the advocacy experience. How's that? I noticed that more often than not, there was an air of acceptance, an air of helplessness for the communities that I served, and that included immigrant communities. So when they were invited to school meetings, when they were invited to parent-teacher conferences, people who were not native English speakers were shut out, partly because the system did not know how to support them at that time. We're getting much better at that here, at least here in New York City. And the other aspect that prevented a sense of resiliency for these communities, these immigrant communities, is a sense of, I have no control here, I have no power, I have no choice. And so they did not have the communication skills or the internal mechanisms or even the mentorship or access to information that would encourage them to speak up. And that's why I pursued this master's in ESL, started out as the advocate, then the educator, and now the coach. I go full circle, and I'll end here. I believe that resiliency is a journey. And by the way, as you may know, of course, does it ever end? No, it never ends. Why doesn't resiliency or our capacity to be resilient never stop? Because life doesn't stop. Events happen. We are impacted every day, every minute, every year. And so we have to develop those skills of saying, I have maybe perhaps failed in this situation, but I will learn from this failure. I will use this as a lesson so that I can develop those skills to overcome. So if it was my example of the disability, I could say, gee, I was pretty arrogant thinking that I was somehow better off than someone who was more physically disabled than I. And I could say, wait a minute, why was I doing that? Maybe I was protecting myself. Maybe it was too painful when I was much younger to admit that this disability was something that caused me hurt, that made me fearful of people's judgment, that kept me quiet when I should have spoken up. Second of all, as an educator in the school systems, I learned that resiliency is taught by your words, through your words, and through your actions. So when young people would come into my classroom and I would have them read excerpts of specific speeches, I hesitate to say this, but I used Obama's speech to school children. I'm not telling anybody who or what party they should be affiliated here in the US with, but I used that speech, for example. No other educator had done that. They thought that was sort of unusual. Why would you give a 10th grade student that kind of a speech to look over and to analyze? Because that speech was about hope. And many of the students that I worked with did not have access to hope. They didn't have a way of imagining themselves as going forward from their current circumstances, which may have been challenging, to their future selves, which would be successful. So that was another thing. Becoming resilient is something that we are taught, right? Something that we have to be self-reflective about, something that we are taught to do, and something that we learn from when we are willing to be self-reflective and teachable, right? No matter how many degrees we all have, no matter how many years of experience I offer 15 years of English as a second language, coaching experience, teaching experience, including the 7 years of advocacy, public speaking experience. Doesn't matter. What matters is your ability to commit to your personal growth and your ability to model the potential that you see in the people that you serve by giving them the skills and the strategies they need to become more resilient. So it's a journey, and I'm happy to talk about it. And I'm so happy to have these opportunities to become more and more resilient and help others to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Bear with one moment. It's, yeah, as you say, resilience is not something you go through periods, but we will all learn because we're all affected by challenges and trials in the season of life as we journey in this life. It's almost like patience. We will never conquer patience.
Oh, tell me about it.
You pray about it, you pray about it, you get tested in it. So yes, indeed. So thank you. And if you've got questions for Laura, please save them till the end when I open the floor for live Q&A. Okay.
Thank you so
Laura.
much.
Thank you for your contribution. And now I'd like to actually introduce our second speaker, who is Sonia Gupta. Who is Sonia? Well, Sonia's journey embodies resilience and the pursuit of happiness. As a relationship and divorce coach, Sonia draws from her personal struggles to support others facing painful separations. In 2010, she chose freedom for herself and her 2 sons, leaving a toxic marriage despite her family's resistance. Manipulated and stigmatized, Sonia fought for years, enduring a drawn-out court process. While living free in 2021, Sonia celebrated with a divorce party that went viral, inspiring many. Her story reminds others that there is life after divorce and the courage to seek it. Sonia, you know how Ritu could resonate with you on so many levels in just that little bit of bio that I shared. And that's why she created Kaushulya UK. So I'm going to remove my spotlight and hand the floor over to you. Bear with me. Right, Sonia, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you, Carol. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. So I won't go too much into the history of the marriage, but I will tell everybody a little bit about it. I don't really go into the ins and outs of it. But as a result of my marriage and what I went through, I launched what I call It's a Sonia Thing last year summer as a relationship and divorce mentor and coach. And where the resilience really comes into this is being from the Southeast Asian community. When you're a little girl and you're living at home with mum and dad and the 2.4 family, the one thing that is drummed into you is you need to get married. You need to get married. You need to get married. And it's all I remember hearing as a little girl is it was about getting an education. My family were forward in that way. But it was also about this whole thing. You need to get married because that is what your life is. You need to get married and have the children. And so I'd hit the age of 26 and I'd had a relationship, but it didn't work out for various reasons. And there was all this pressure on me to have this perfect marriage. And so I did get married, and I actually got married in India. So being British born, I actually traveled to India, got married in India, and it wasn't an arranged marriage. It was introduced. There was nobody forced me. It was purely my choice. And we got married very quickly, met him, and within 6 weeks we were married. So it's a very quick, and it wasn't a small wedding, it was a very lavish wedding, got married. And the plan actually of mine was to actually live in India. So it was a huge change for me. Anyway, that all happened. And a couple of years down the line, we then ended up coming back to the UK, and I had my elder son. But then what started happening, and now I've done a lot of reflection on the marriage. It was a lot. We got married, had a child, moved country like twice. And that's quite a lot for two people to go through in the space of 3 years. And so naturally that put a strain on the marriage. Anyway, tried to get through it. And by 2010, I was like, this is not working for me. And this is really where that journey began of resilience, because up until that point, I was just ticking along in this, what everyone thought was the perfect life with the 2.4 children. And then came the real struggle, was when I told my family that I wanted out. And they were not up for it. And there was lots of reasons, and they knew the reasons, and they knew that it wasn't right. But societal pressure is always, you need to stay. So I battled with my family for a period of 8 years while still living under the same roof with the husband and the 2 children. And I was also working for the family business. So he worked for my mum and dad, and I'd given up my job to, in theory, save this marriage. And so the battle was, there was 3 of them, mum, dad, and my ex and me. And that is where I found my strength. Well, I didn't find it then. I had to find my strength and power, and the word resilience, to get out. And that battle with my family was actually harder than leaving the marriage itself. Emotionally, I'd kind of checked out. And the lawsuit and everything that went on was a different thing. But my biggest battle were my mum and dad. And not having any support from anybody. None of my friends had been divorced. Nobody knew anything about it. And I think I found that the hardest. Like, is actually challenging my mum and dad on a daily basis. And that's how I built my resilience, because I didn't have a choice. It was a choice to sink or swim. And I chose, I needed to swim. I was not going to give up. I had these 2 boys, and I needed to find what was right for them. It wasn't just about me, and it was about them. But actually, I've done a lot of reflection. And it was about my ex as well. Let's be fair. I wasn't happy. The kids were ticking along, but he wasn't happy either. So the fight I had, and when I came out the other side, not only have I saved myself, I've saved my children, and I've actually saved him as well. Like, it's been the best for the 4 of us. And I think a lot of people, when they go through situations like this, and they go through what may be classed as a messy divorce, end up quite bitter, and they don't see the perspective from the other person. And I've actually written a book, which I'm looking to get published next year. And I've actually put the perspective in there that, yeah, I'm happier, but actually he probably is too, because none of us were happy. So the journey of my resilience is that battle with my family and against societal stigma. And my biggest battle was actually my mum. My dad he could see it, but my mum was very much like, no, you need to stay for the children, you need to stay for society. What will people say? And that has made me the person I am today. That journey has made me resilient, made me stronger, and actually, people say I've inspired them to do the right thing for themselves as well. And little did I know, when I threw this divorce party, it was the party that changed my life. And I never thought it would. It was just a party in my little old back garden. But once it hit the media, and it went viral on like worldwide, people started reaching out to me and said I was really inspirational. I was like, well, I don't know, because nobody in my circle was divorced. Nobody had been through this. And there's little old me thinking, oh, it's just me, you know, and there's actually a whole other world out there of people that are in similar situations, have been in similar situations, and are going through them. And they need somebody to say, you will come out the other side and it will be okay. And I'm talking about men and women. I had a number of women reach out to me, but actually I had a number of men also from the Southeast Asian community as well, in particular, because again, getting a divorce in the Southeast Asian community it's hard. It's not something you can do easily unless you've got the support of the family, because in our culture, 2 families are getting married. So I drew from that party that there was people needed support, and it's actually something I didn't have. And that is why I then launched It's a Sonia Thing. And I named it that because my party was called It's a Sonia Thing. So I coined everything around this this phrase. And actually now I coach and mentor men and women from all backgrounds. So it's not just for the Southeast Asian community, but obviously I have an understanding of what the family expectations are within that remit. But have helped a number of people navigate their way out. But also I've actually helped a number of couples stay and work things out, because sometimes, which I really find is, I'm not here promoting divorce. That's not what it's about. This is about finding a way to work through things if it's possible, because there absolutely is. And I think maybe, just maybe, and I'm saying this, if I'd been given the right kind of guidance, things may have been very different for me. Who knows? But I now feel like I am in a position where I can help others and inspire others to do the right thing, whether it is staying in that marriage or leaving. But it's not just about leaving, because I understand not everyone's circumstances are the same. And when I tell people it took me 12 years, they're like, well, why did it take you 12 years? They don't realize it's not something you can just get up and go. You've got children. I had nowhere to go. My family wouldn't take me back home. I'm not going to uproot my children for the sake of it. There was no danger as such to us. I was emotionally, my mental health was finished. Emotionally, I was in a very bad place, but we weren't in any danger. So there was no need to uproot everything overnight. And where was I going to go? And it's very easy. People say, well, just go, Sonia. Well, just go, Sonia. I'm like, you're not in my shoes. So I think that's where the difference is. When clients come to me and they're talking to me, they're like, we're really unhappy. And my friends are saying, well, I should just pack my bags and go. Like, but it's not as clear cut as that. There are so many stages and steps before you actually make that decision. And the other thing that I am trying to do is also educate the older generation that are so against this leaving your marriage, because what they need to know is when somebody comes to you and says, my marriage is over and I want to leave, it's actually a really hard decision. They haven't made it overnight. And people kind of think, oh, well, they've just woken up and decided, it's over. And they haven't made that effort to make it work. So with my work, it's about working through people's different problems and giving them the strength to make the right choices. So it doesn't mean it's got to be a divorce. I've got to say there's a number of my clients that have actually stayed in a marriage, because once you break it down and unpack it with the right tools, there's lots of reasons to stay. It's either the glass half full or the glass half empty. And sometimes, yes, unfortunately, the glass is half empty and it is time to go. But there are lots of reasons that glass can be half full as well. But people always think the grass is always greener on the other side, or, there may be somebody better out there. And there's all these thoughts that middle-aged women go through at certain times in their life. And actually, I've had a number of clients who have thought their marriage is over, but actually it's more they've changed. The husband hasn't changed. He's still exactly the same as he was 10 years ago. But as women get older, they have hormonal changes and they suddenly think, well, I don't like him anymore. But actually, the poor guy hasn't changed. He's exactly the same. And it's their thought process that changed. But when you point that out to somebody, they have a very different view. And they're like, actually, Sonia, you're right. And actually, there is nothing wrong. I need to just retrain and rethink how I view things. And that is really where the resilience comes in, is trying to help people change their views, look at things from a different angle and not the same angle that they've had for X amount of years. So my story is more about the resilience that I found within myself, and not realizing it at all, that party would actually change my life and inspire people to either speak up and make some changes. So that's really about my journey. My boys are great. And I have a lot of people say, you know, I won't leave because of my kids. But actually what they don't realize, a toxic environment is not the right environment for children. And that's a very big problem, again, in the Southeast Asian community, that, you know, two parents are better, you know. But what they don't realize, and I've said this very openly, when I was in my marriage and I was low as low can be, I wasn't an effective mum. Absolutely. My boys did not get the best of me that they should have. And that does hurt, because I should have been present the whole time. But when you cannot see, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and you are just trying to survive day by day, minute by minute, it's literally just surviving. And recently, one of my friends said to me, Sonia, you were at my wedding, but you weren't at my wedding. I was just a shell. And that actually made me think that I have not been as present as I would have liked to be. So now, obviously, I do more, I spend more time with the children, and I make sure that, like, they're on the right path. But again, that is, you can only get through that with perseverance, persistence, and resilience. And I think that's really what I discovered over the 10 years, 12 years of my journey. Didn't realize it, but actually I did have that within me to carry through that journey and find the resilience, fight my family and society. And now people are like, great work, Sonia. Thank you for speaking out about divorce in the Southeast Asian community. I never intended for things to go this way, but this is where I am today. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and my journey of resilience.
That is awesome, Sonia. There will be questions at the Q&A, but thank you for sharing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I've been looking forward to hearing your story from this perspective. So now it gives me great pleasure. Are you ready, Shane Yarrow? For me to introduce
I'm ready.
you. Let me just spotlight us. Bear with me. Now, Shane, I met Shane at the local Hero Awards, where, believe it or not, we were both finalists in the same category. And during the interview process with the judges, I got to meet Shane and spoke with him, and I knew straight away, and this is the honest truth, Shane, that you would be a worthy winner. Seriously, just from that short bit of conversation we had around the lunch. So it gives me the greatest of pleasure to actually host you tonight and to share a little bit about you before you share your story. And Jagruti, thank you for attending. So Shane is an avid fundraiser who wants to make a difference, which is why he set up Through the Fight Foundation, a fully registered charity which provides support for victims of violent crime and families affected by illness. You ready for this, audience? Shane has raised over £200,000 and lives by the saying, life is too short to be cruel, let's be kind. Shane is the current mayor of Waltham Abbey in Essex and halfway through his second year as mayor. Shane, it gives me the greatest of pleasure to say the floor is yours.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for the opportunity as well. That was a nice introduction. So it's our time where to start, really. I love what you girls said previously, to me. I think that was really nice and both inspiring, how you're dealing with things, whether it be like the divorce or your disability. So it's been nice for me to listen to that. My journey started in 2007. I was randomly attacked on Halloween. We had a baby Staff, and he would always escape and go back to our previous address. So we had trick-or-treaters knock at the door. I was getting my little brother ready, and he ran off. So I knew exactly where he was going. So I sort of chased him up there. And then I was going, it was like a meadow type area. So I was going through there. Couldn't really see much. And it's not hard when you're looking for a blue Staff as well. So I carried on and felt what I thought was a slap to the face. I see somebody standing there with like a mask, like half up, so I could see the mouth. And obviously left the scene because it was dark, and made my way back to my mum's house without the dog. Didn't really have time to think. And I don't really remember much from that. I passed out, and then I remember coming round like in an ambulance and being dealt with at the hospital. And he said to me, "What's happened?" I said, "I've been like punched." And he said, "No, you haven't. Like, it's a laceration to the side of your head." So that was a bit of a shock, and I felt like I went inwards because obviously it's the fact that that's happened in your local area, firstly, and then secondly, you start questioning yourself, thinking like, "Is it me? Have I done something wrong? Is somebody out to get me?" And it was quite close around the stage of me coming out as a gay man as well. So you start sort of questioning whether it seems to do with that. Police took me back to the scene after recovery and found like butts of a joint where somebody's smoking weed, and thought that I'd just disturbed somebody. But it was still like hard to accept that had happened, because like I said, you start questioning yourself and thinking, is it something I've done? Of like, is someone out to get me or whatnot? But a couple of years later, I thought one thing that got me through that was people, having like good people around you, and that's everything. You talk about resilience. Having good people around me was everything, because I went so inwards. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to do nothing. I didn't want to go out. I was a little bit embarrassed as well, because you start feeling like people are going to think you're hated or whatnot. I just become a little bit paranoid. So then like built myself up over a period of time, really. That was 2007 that happened. And then I wanted to turn it into something positive. So in 2011, I decided to climb Kilimanjaro. I'd seen the celebrities do it, and I thought, what a fascinating accomplishment. And I wanted to turn my experience into something positive. So I'd, been reading about a family that had lost their son as a result of knife crime, and he wasn't a bad person at all. He was just trying to break up a fight, and he was stabbed and unfortunately passed away as a result of it. So I wanted to challenge myself, but I wanted to do it to make a difference. So I'd done it for the family that had lost their son to knife crime, raised a substantial amount for them. They'd actually set up a charity called the Rob Knox Foundation. So they, even though they'd lost their son to knife crime, they'd set up a charity to support other victims of violent crime, and in particular knife crime. So I thought that was really inspirational. So I climbed Kilimanjaro 2011, and I found like it was such a buzz getting to the top of Kilimanjaro, but I actually got just as much of a buzz, if not more, from passing the money over to the family. And then, because obviously I was a stranger to them and they was a stranger to me. So I got more of a buzz from that, really, just as much of a buzz. And it just spurred on from then. I carried on. I didn't want to make it all about knife crime. So a year later, I did a walk from London to Brighton. A year after that, 2013, I raised money for a victim, like someone that had been involved in a horrific car crash. He'd lost 3 of his friends, and he actually died at the scene and was like brought back to life, which was amazing. And he needed a lot of specialist equipment. He's got brain damage now, but he's come a long way. He really has come back. And again, that family turned into friends. So I just found myself, I've got a bit of a passion. Like it's hard to explain. It's like a hobby. I love helping people. That might sound weird to a lot of people, but I do. When I was at my darkest times, it was people that got me through it, and I wanted to be that person going forward to help somebody through their struggle, or be like the light at the end of a dark tunnel, if that makes sense. So I went on, and here we are, 13 years later. That started in 2011. But the journey just went on. I was doing challenges for people in need. I did obviously Kilimanjaro, I'd done a lot of I'd walked from London to Brighton. I'd done a lot of other challenges like head shaves and a bungee jump. And I was lucky enough to receive a Pride of Essex award from a fundraising, which completely caught me by surprise. And I remember somebody saying to me at the time, like, where do you want to take this? Like, you've been fundraising for like 4 years, nearly 5. Where do you want to take it? And I said, I'd love to set up my own charity. I'd love to. And then I spoke to a few people about it, and a couple of people said, you know what, you won't be able to do that because you're not famous. It's only really famous people or people that are really in the public eye that are able to do that. And that didn't stop me really. I just thought, you know what, I'm a normal everyday person, might be like an average Joe, but let's go, let's try. And I managed to get a company involved that helped me through the paperwork. So as I said, winning the Pride of Essex Award in 2015, I then set up a community interest company in 2016, and it was rejected at first because we didn't meet all of the criteria. So yeah, I thought, you know what, let's go. I'm determined to do this. It's not something that was like an initial quick time thought. I thought, oh, this is what I really, really want to do. So we went back, altered the paperwork. There's certain criteria you had to meet, and then that was accepted. So I set up through the foundation in April 2016, and then carried on raising money it was for anybody in need at that point, and absolutely anybody in need. And then a year later turned it into a fully registered charity, and again that was rejected first time around because we didn't meet the criteria. All our purposes were charitable, but there was certain legislation that we had to change, so I went back the second time and that was accepted. And yeah, that was 2017 August, so we had the launch, and it's just gone on from there. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I love a challenge. I've done, like I said, Kilimanjaro. I've climbed the Great Wall of China, 2018 for James Bulger's Memorial Trust. James's mum I met at the British Citizen Awards in 2017. Absolutely inspirational. And I remember asking a lot of questions about the James Bulger story because I'm a year younger than the guys that took him. So I remember asking my mum and dad a lot of questions, and I didn't really get the answers. Obviously, you're not going to explain to a 10-year-old what's really happened. But then I found out growing up, later in life, what really happened and the depths of the tragedy, and then ended up meeting his mum so many years later. And I thought she'd just sort of gone away quietly, as you would do, suffering that sort of tragedy. And I got in touch with her following the British Citizen Awards, and didn't think, people say, oh, she won't entertain you. She's a very private woman, and she's like cautious of people, as you would be. But then we ended up meeting in Liverpool. I climbed the Great Wall of China and raised the money for them, and we've kept in touch. I go to their balls every year. They have on James's birthday, which is in March, they have a ball then. And one of the things I found, I've met some absolute unbelievable people in all of this fundraising. So it's been nice to be able to make a difference. And we're 13 years later, I've raised £203,000 now on my Just Giving page, which my initial goal was to raise £100,000 before I turned 50. So I'd managed to raise 100,000 when I was 36, I think, 37, and I'm now just turned 41 not long ago, and it's hit the 200,000 milestone. So I want to keep going. I'd love to be like, don't want to compare myself because he's in a different league to me, but like Captain Tom Moore. If I was able, fit and well as an old boy, I would be trying to climb a mountain or do something. I can't help it. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie, but I want to do all these things as well to make a difference. I don't want to do it for myself. Or if you're able to take on a challenge like that and raise money for somebody that's severely in need, then why not? And through the fight, I had to close it in a little bit. Like I said, when I initially set up Through the Fight Foundation, it was for anybody in need. And when trying to turn it into a fully registered charity, the reason we didn't meet the criteria because it was too wide open. A charity has to be more specific. So I've now made it more specific, which is for victims of violent crime and people with terminal and life-limited illnesses. So we've raised money to pay for funerals after people have been murdered very tragically as a result of knife crime. And you can't make that situation any better, but what you can do is be a pillar of support for the family. And if you lose a loved one very suddenly as a result of knife crime, you're not in a position to even think about the funeral, let alone have a spare £5,000 to pay for a sudden and unexpected funeral. So I've managed to do that, raise money to pay for funerals. We've helped children with life-limited illnesses, a child with cerebral palsy, children that need specially adapted equipment, children with brain injuries. We've raised money to send kids on a final trip with their parents when the kids are fighting cancer and there's unfortunately nothing they can do. So we've raised money to send them on a final trip with their family. There's been a lot, and I wouldn't change a thing. There's been so many situations that I've probably missed out. You know, often like in memory of people, and especially when there's somebody with a terminal illness. Again, you can't really make that any better, but you can give them a lasting memory that the family will keep for a lifetime. You know, and there's obviously the pictures to go with it. So yeah, that's a lot of my journey. It's been a long journey. I wouldn't change a thing. I'll keep going and keep doing it. In regards to being the mayor, you know, I've been very lucky. I think at my age, I was one of the youngest men to do it. I've been told in Waltham Abbey, doing it at 39, and that's one of them sort of kick yourself moments as well. I was thinking, do they really have that much belief in me to offer me that role? So I took that on at 39, and then they offered me a second year, which was an absolute honour, and I'm halfway through that. But I think it's always good to plan. After that, I've got 5 months left of being the mayor, and from then, like it's so busy. Carol will tell you it's been quite hard getting hold of me in it, so I apologise for that. But you know, going on, you have to. I like to always try to raise the bar, and like as much as being the mayor of Waltham Abbey has been an absolute honour, I like to plan ahead. I'm always thinking of the next thing and what to do from then on. So I want to take the charity from strength to strength. I'd love to one day raise £250,000, which I'm only sort of £47,000 off, and that could happen in time. I just do it as long as I can do it. And I think that we were talking about resilience earlier, and one of the things the girls were saying is that resilience is the ability to recover from difficulties. And I think I'd like to think that I've done that, but more importantly, being able to help people recover from that. Sometimes a lot of the people that I've raised money for are strangers, and they're very cautious of you at first. When you come through, they're sort of like, who is this guy? What does he want? And then they question you like, what do you want? Do you want like 10%? Or are you looking for like some sort of the money? When you're fundraising, do you take any money? I said, I don't take anything. Obviously, just giving is the platform that I use. They're amazing, and there's a slight deduction on a crowdfunding page, but that's it. I don't want nothing, and it's nice for them to realise that, you know. And I want people to know, like, just because you're a stranger, it doesn't mean that you don't care about people, or you know you're not bothered about somebody's situation. It's the same if you walk past somebody who's homeless on the street. Are you that person that stops, or that person that walks past? And I'd always be that person that stops. And I think that little bit of your time, just a minute or two of your time, can make such a difference in their day. And that can be the same going on to the families that you help. You know, if somebody's grieving a sudden loss and they don't know where to turn, they may not know me at the time, but then you end up becoming friends with these people. And it's just nice to be there and them to realise that you're not in it for no other reason, just other than you wanted to help them come back through their fight. And that's why I set up Through the Fight. I think we're all going through our own fight daily, whether it be mentally, physically, and the best thing, or the best remedy to pull you through that, is people. And that's what pulled me through. And like I said earlier, I want to be one of them people that pulls somebody through. You don't expect to end up being friends with these people after you've raised money. That's not the plan. You just want to step in, help, and improve their quality of life. Or, as I said, if they've suddenly lost a loved one, then you just want to take away the financial strain of a funeral. So I never expected to end up achieving the things I have with setting up a charity or being mayor. And it's massive that people have had this faith in me, and I'll always be grateful for that. And I'd like to say that to people as well. Always trust your instincts. Allow that stranger to help you. You know, I know there are scammers these days, and there are people that come through for the wrong reasons, and people set up fake Just Giving pages to make money off the back of a tragedy, which is shocking. But, you know, you still have to allow somebody in. And I'm lucky now where I've done quite a lot of things where people, like, it's obviously on Google, when you approach a family, when you've heard about the story, you approach the family, they're a little less cautious than they were before, because they can search your name. And then obviously when they search me, there's things that come up on Google with my previous fundraisers, and they realise that I'm genuine. So yeah, just what I'd say to anybody is, going past somebody, whether it's somebody homeless, somebody that's crying on the street, don't be that person that walks past, be that person that stops. And a little bit of your time can make such a difference in somebody's life. And yeah, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. You know, I've met so many amazing people along the way that share the same beliefs, because some people think you're mad. You know, when I first met my partner years ago, he was like, why'd you do it? Like, why are you paying this money to go and climb the Great Wall of China? And I said, well, at the end of the day, like, it's a massive experience, and I'm doing it for this family that are really struggling, for example. So everyone's different. We've all got our own values and beliefs and hobbies, should we say. But I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of people along the way that share the same beliefs as me, like Carol. You know, I'm lucky to have met Carol. I met so many amazing people at the local Hero Awards. And one of the best things about being there is you're in the room with people that like the same things as you, and they have the same passion as you. And for me, on that night, just being there was an absolute honour. I felt like I'd won just by being there. We'd all won just by being there, by being selected. And then, like, winning is I mean, like I said, we're all won by being there. So it didn't matter to me whether I won or not. As much as I'm grateful for the opportunity, I think we're all winners, and I was able to share the room with beautiful people, and that's one of the best things you can take with you in all of this that I've done. And I've made some friends for life, and like to think I've made a difference, and that's important. That's the best thing you can do. Life is too short to be cruel. Be kind. That's what I say. We've got a lot of nasty things that people say online. I've witnessed it recently more so than ever, and I think that we're in a world where you can come on Facebook or TikTok, or not so much Instagram, but you can come on social media and say whatever you want. You can talk about a person that's passed away in the most horrific way. You can talk about their family that are grieving in a disrespectful way. And that is the one thing I'd love to change. I know I haven't got the ability to do that, but I think as much as there's all this positive, which is amazing, and I always focus on the positive, that would be my one negative that I would pick up on now, is that social media. And like I said, there's probably more beautiful people in this world than ugly people. And when I say ugly, I mean ugly as in the way that they behave, not the way they look. You know, so there's more positive than negative, but that would be the one thing that I would change going forward. I think social media should have we should have a limit, and I think it should be a crime, personally, to be able to come on and talk about people in a disrespectful way, especially when they're grieving or when they're suffering mentally, you know. And we've all got to look out for each other, you know, compliment that stranger on social media, write something nice. You don't have to know somebody to comment and say they look nice, or, you know, good luck in whatever you're doing. And that's my attitude that I take forward in life. Like, I just, you know, you don't know how long you're around. I've seen people, we've lost people, I've lost friends. I lost a friend last year to suicide. I lost a friend 5-6 years ago to knife crime, and you don't know when your time is up. And I mean that in the most positive way. So live every moment like it's your last, and be the best that you can be. And that's that's all I can really say. I feel like I've rambled on now, but I'll be quiet for a little while.
Oh my goodness. No, Shane, thank you. Thank you. Your heart goes before you.
No.
And
So I think that's what you've got to do, and it's all about having a big heart and just trying to guide someone. You know, maybe we haven't got enough people that look out for people. We've got a lot of nice people, but I think if we're all like that, can you imagine the world? I'm not saying if they're all like me, but if we all looked out for each other or reached out, can you imagine how different the world would be?
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. Thank you, Shane. And now we've heard from all our speakers. Oh, before I open up the floor for Q&A, I just want to say a big thank you to Jagruti Dugal, who is with us tonight. She was working behind the scenes at all hours, pulling together the local Hero Awards, which was a phenomenal event, as Shane has just said. So Jagruti, we appreciate you, and everything, the hard work, the hours, the tireless hours that you put into making that event, helping making that event the event that it was, and the team behind you. So thank you.
I'd like to
And
second that. I thought it was amazing what they done, and they made us all feel really special on the day. And that was better than winning any award, just the being in the room with everybody and feeling how they made us feel. So well done, Jack. You're amazing.
yeah.
Thank you.
And now I'm going to open up the floor for Q&A. So let me just remove our spotlight. And I'll remove mine. Okay, so the floor is open. Ask your questions. Speaker to speaker. Audience to speaker. Yeah.
Hi, it's Jagruti here.
Hi,
Hi,
Jagruti.
everyone. First of all, absolutely brilliant listening to each one of your stories. Sonia, I don't think you kind of remember, but I have actually spoken to you.
I do remember we have spoken. Actually, probably in 21 when the party went viral. I think
Yeah,
we
and-
spoke. I think I got your number through a friend, and we
That's
did
correct.
speak briefly then. But actually, I think we spoke, and I wasn't really sure which direction I wanted to take things in.
Yeah, I
and then
think I sent you an email of like what to do, because I think at that time my
Yeah.
father was extremely ill.
Okay.
And then I remember I sent you an email, but I have to say, well done. You've honestly
you.
done so well. Yes, your divorce party did go totally viral. And the kind of person that I am, like everyone else, I love to help, I love to support, I love to be there for everyone and make a positive difference out there. And I think for Sonia, as being like an Asian myself, like I'm from the Hindu community, yes, it is very, very difficult for us to actually speak out. Sometimes it's probably more difficult for a female, but at the same time, it's also very difficult for a male because it's their pride and they feel that being the man of the house or being the man, right? It's even harder because a lot of people, as I say, being a man within, I can just only say from our community, from the Indian community, is the fact that, you know, you're the man and everything, and you should do this, you should do that. But at the same time, is for a female, it's like, all right, you're the female. A lot of them kind of like say, you can't really be working out. You should be staying at home doing this. But I think everyone's attitude, I'm not going to say all of them, but some of the attitudes and the way of thinking has moved more forward. But at the same time, is when I actually delivered workshops to the South Asian communities based on teenage pregnancy, which was also a taboo subject, and on domestic violence, and on drugs and alcohol. It's about understanding their inner self as well. Why are they doing this? What actually got them to do this? But at the same time is, who do we look up to? As like kids, we look up to our parents. Who do our parents look up to? Their grandparents. Who do their grandparents look up to? It's when they actually go to these religious places, they listen to them and everything, right? But at the same time is what a lot of people don't understand is this is like, as a generic, is that there is no right or wrong. Realistically, certain things that they say is within, like it's said in like the book or whatever it is. Realistically, it's not. It's what culture has actually put forward. And I think at the same time is, yes, when I actually delivered workshops, I actually delivered workshops to the grandparents as well as the parents, and I did a mentoring with the young people and the parents, grandparents, and got the religious leaders on board to talk about the facts. It actually helped because it made them understand more. And I think this is something that, that may be something that this should be actually brought out as well. You know, helping people talk about their feelings, what they should do, confused, should I stay because of my kids? You know, what are people going to say? Really, is that important? Do you get what I mean? But
Absolutely.
And not only that, I think, you know, hats off to you, Sonia, because, you know, just that divorce party, and I know like various divorce parties have taken place, but yours just went totally out. I'm like, whoa.
Well, I have no idea. And obviously, there's always a reason. And when I was trying to extricate myself from my marriage, I was like, why is it taking 12 years? Like, what, why? I never did the why me, why am I getting divorced? That wasn't on the radar, but it was like, why is it taking so long? And why are my parents not on board? But now I realized there was a path that was meant for me to take. And so those 12 years were not in vain. I mean, if I just help one person, which I have now, like multiple, those 12 years of my pain are well and truly worth it. Like, as much as I do still look back, and when I write some of my posts and I put them on social media about my loneliness journey or my mental health and things like that, I still cry. It still brings a tear to my eye. When I talk about my relationship with my mum, that is the thing that I still struggle with, because I wrote a post saying, will my mum ever forgive me for bringing divorce to her door? And the honest truth is, she won't. Like, she says it, and she still said to me, are you really happy? And I'm like, oh my God, how can you even answer that question? Like, did you make the right decision? And I absolutely did. But that divorce party was clearly meant to go viral for whatever the reason, because maybe I am one of these people that do speak very openly about my mental health, my family, all the stigma that went along with it. And there's a lot of people in my circle now, because I've met thousands, like hundreds of people since I've got divorced, who are divorced but don't talk about it the way I do. And I'll post it in these groups, and they'll message me privately and say, thank you for writing what I was thinking, and I know I'm not alone now. So there was always a reason behind my 12-year journey.
Yeah.
And I've now attended multiple divorce parties after my one, so started a bit of a trend. But it's just about celebrating your new life, and that's it. It's not about throwing I've got rid of that person. It's not about that. It's just about embracing a new beginning. You throw a reception when you get married. I threw a divorce party because it's a new beginning. That was it.
Exactly. And I think
Awesome.
it's just the understanding of it all as well, and to bring out the mental health, because not many people know, all right, even though, yes, like people go through like divorce and some of them it's a mutual decision, but realistically, it still affects their mental health as well. So, that's something that I'm glad that you've actually brought out. There's so much involved. It's like for some of them, it's like grieving in a different way as well. So
you're grieving the loss of a marriage. You're grieving a loss of the life you planned. Like,
that's it, yeah.
If you said to me, what was my dream when I was 5 years old or 10 years old or 50 years old, was to get married and have the 2.4 children and live happily ever after. That was it. That was my dream. I wasn't particularly ambitious. I worked in childcare, had a little job that ticked me along. That was it. I was not ambitious at all. It was never about being an entrepreneur or having my own business. I just wanted that really simple, happy life. And I realized that wasn't going to happen. And I had to change everything that I thought about. Like, everything in my world changed. But my mental health, what people don't realize, for 12 years, I'd say maybe not a whole time, but 10 years, I must have cried every day on that school run there and back every day. And that was my only sanctuary, my car. My home, where my ex wasn't a safe place. And I go to my mum and dad's, and my mum would be like, you're ruining my life, and why are you getting a divorce? So actually, my only safe place was my car. And I would just cry like these silent tears with this pain that nobody could alleviate. It was the worst. And when I think back at it and I write about it and the loneliness and all those things, it still brings tears to my eyes. But I've come a long way. And if I can help anybody on their journey, then my work is done. But thank you, Jagruti.
No, well done.
I just
anyone else
realized I was muted.
Uh-huh.
Excellent. Thank you.
I was just going to say to Shane as well, hi, and I'm so glad you're actually on here.
I'm glad you're on here as well. It's been an honour to come on, hasn't it? And especially to talk to you again.
Oh, blessed. Well, I have to say that obviously when I met you at the judging day and everything, I remember you so nervous, and I said, just be yourself and everything. And I think sometimes like things like that, but I have to say, I said this when I met you then, And even after when we've spoken, that I'm very proud of you. So well done on everything that you're doing and you're still continuing to do. I know
Thank
you're absolutely busy with everything, and I think it's the best thing, and showing your work, you know, making a difference, helping those out there, and thinking of everything where people need that support and help. You know, it's, you know, I really don't know what to say, but I am so proud, and I'm so glad that, you know, your journey is fulfilling and it's flourishing as well. So well done, Shane. Really am
you. That
proud of
means a
you.
lot. I really appreciate that.
And Laura, I was just going to say, actually, I mean, listen to your story as well. And, you know, sometimes in life, like a lot of us tend to like be in denial of how we are, what we do, how we look, how we feel. But sometimes that could also be a strength as well. I feel, because sometimes I think with everyone, we tend to think about what other people are going to say, what other people are going to do. You know, we think about others before we actually think about ourselves. And that's just natural. That's what happens in life. Do you get what I mean? No matter how strong a person or how known a person you are, you do tend to, even though you want your life the way it is, you do tend to think about other people. But I suppose, like, listening to your story as well, and with what you've been through and what you realized as well, you know, was like really, really good. And I mean, is it something that you also do with other people as well, that you talk to, you help them and support them as well through what you've
Yes,
been through with your own journey?
yes, it's definitely has always been sort of a backdrop. Having the physical difference, being born with cerebral palsy, um, uh, a while ago. I'm not the youngest person in the room, perhaps, I don't know. But anyway, being born in a time when there were not accommodations, when there was not such a thing as disability justice, and we had to create that, right? That had to be something that had to evolve and be created. It had influenced me along my journey of resilience. And often I will not even mention the fact that I have this physical difference. It's a bit of fun for me on one hand, because if I'm in my little neat square here and I don't mention it, you may not pick up on it. And then it's interesting to see the difference in interaction. On the other hand, it's not always negative, by the way, but on the other hand, when you sort of come out in my own way also, and you're your authentic self, you realize that, as Shane was saying, and as Sonia was saying, you evolve, right? You start out with a particular mindset. Perhaps it's that younger version who's seeking that approval. And then you evolve into a person who says, well, this people pleasing is not very productive. It's very draining, and it's not doing me any good. And certainly it's not a good example for the other people that I'm serving in my life. So how can I change that? Well, I don't know how to change it unless I ask myself why I'm doing it in the first place. So this led me to this coaching journey of helping healthcare professionals, because it's not only just because I have a physical difference, but I became keenly aware of medical professionals' reactions to those patients that were not necessarily on their radar, or how they responded to patients who were professionals, but who are also maybe physically different or had language differences, right? So to answer your question the long way around, sorry, the long
All
way
right.
around, I've discovered, and for me, what works is being able to use the personal experience to empower myself on a professional level, and then to use that experience and resiliency to further support those healthcare professionals that want to improve their English communication skills. And I agree with both Sonia and Shane. I agree with Sonia because it's really struck me when you said, Sonia, that we change, you know, menopause or whatever it is, we change. Well, the girl that was that Laura, you know, 30 years ago is not the same girl that is 30 years since. And so the things that I want in life have nothing to do with what I wanted then. Right. And that's true for men, for women, for every human. And what resonated with what you said, Shane, is we are born with a certain nature, and it's just in me to help. And frankly, my husband would often tease me because I used to work in a residence, for example, and the cook was always trying to fatten me up and bring, you know, big plates of food for me to bring back home after my shift was over. And it was too much. So I didn't want to hurt her feelings. I would accept the food, and prior to going down into the subway to get home, I would hand this plate of food over to this homeless person who was always there every night. And my husband said, the day or the evening that you show up with no food, that guy's going to hit you right over the head. And I said, no, he's not. He's not. And actually he did not. So it was just in my nature to help. I've been born that way. But we have to teach people what resiliency looks like. We have to teach them how to set boundaries. We have to encourage their self-care, because givers, sometimes, you know how we are, we give and we give and we give, and then we're exhausted. That's not good either. So
no, that's absolutely great. And I think with all of you, like Shane, Sonia, and Laura, it's all life experiences. It's what you're going through that's actually helped your journey to be able to help everyone else out there. And there are many people who still actually go through certain things, but don't have the strength or have the courage to actually do anything about it. So for all of you, I'd have to say well done, because that's where you're all kind of like helping others answer some of their questions or things that they're keeping within themselves, but also saying, do you know what? If I can do it, you can do it too. Usually, sometimes it just takes that one person to take that step to help others, to bring them along that journey as well, and to make that stance. And I have to say, you know, Carol, you know, well done for bringing everyone together. And it's just so nice to listen to everyone, and, you know, the strength, the power, the courage, but the self-confidence and everything that you all have. But most of all, you know, accepting what you have been through, how it's, you know, affected your mental health, but at the same time is the support and help that you're giving to others out there. So well done.
Indeed. It's awesome.
Could I ask a quick question to
Of
both?
course you can.
Laura
I
and
wondered
Sonia?
whether you were trying to unmute then. I could see your hand.
So I didn't want
Go
to jump.
for
I
it.
didn't want to interrupt anybody. So Laura, like, what would you say? Like, by the way, I think that the way you're dealing with everything is amazing. It's inspirational, and it's like shows your inner strength. What would you say to somebody that's living with cerebral palsy that's struggling?
I would say find yourself a good community of mentors and friends, as you mentioned also. Community is everything. I would not have moved from my own denial around my having this physical challenge into the advocate who said, okay, stop crying in your beer. You know, this is what we need to, this is how we need to consider looking at ourselves. You are a human being. You just have certain specific needs, and those needs can be addressed, and you can ask for them. So I would highly recommend the mentorship in the community, and you can find them through simple Google searches. Look for nonprofit organizations, look for advocacy groups that support people with disabilities. And also It also is the same is true for immigrant community groups that want to be seen and heard and not biased against because of their language skills in English. Community is what keeps you going when you're faced with those blatant biases, or maybe even not so blatant biases, and you need to figure out how you need to respond, in order to be successful.
Thank you. And Sonia, again, the way you've turned a negative into something positive and you embraced it, I think that's commendable. So well done for that. But you mentioned the relationship with your parents. Do you feel like that judgment at the time, obviously you were being judged for getting divorced, do you feel like that judgment is still there, or do you think you've managed to change the perception?
So sadly, my dad passed away the year after I got divorced, but he was, I was really sad when he passed away, but he did see me come out the other side, and he did see me smile, which was, really, that meant a lot. And he did see me start to rebuild my life. And in fact, what I didn't mention was that when my parents did eventually come round, they did support me fully in getting through the financials of the divorce and stuff like that, because it was long and hard and very costly. Will my mum ever really come to terms with it? I don't know. She'll never say to me, you did the right thing. She'll say to me now, very candidly, oh, I'm very proud of you. Oh, I'm proud of you. Probably not the word very, but I'm proud of you. And she's been to the temple, and funny enough, there was a single mum there, and she said, oh, my daughter can help you. And I was like horrified, not horrified, shocked that she'd actually even given my number out for that reason. So that has changed a little bit. But I think there'll always be a part of her that thinks it could have been different. She could have done things differently. Because I always had a rocky relationship with my mum from when I was younger, because I always challenged the norm. I always challenged boundaries. Like, my parents were the first set of parents to come from India, like the first immigrants. So when they came here, like, going to the cinema wasn't allowed. Going out with friends wasn't really something I could do. Going away on holiday wasn't an option so I challenged them. So I always had that battle with her, no matter what I did. So even going to cinema was a battle. Going out with my friends was a battle. And I had one girly holiday before I got married. And then my sister had loads because she's younger than me. So I always was the troublemaker, in inverted commas. I was always a black sheep. I was always one that challenged everything. So what happened is, when I got married, my ex probably saw that there was a bit of a breakdown in communication between me and her. And because he worked with them on a daily basis, he managed to win them over completely. And my mum and dad thought I was the bad sheep of the family, the bad egg, like not the one conforming to how a traditional Hindu wife should be, and coming home and making chapatis and cooking everything. And eventually that's why I gave up my career, because they were like, you need to stay home and look after him. And I was like, okay, he's a big man. He can, it was a little bit of that cultural difference. So my mum was always she was never always in my corner. So I think she probably still thinks that, I mean, if I'd done things differently, we'd still be married. So I'm still always going to get that blame, but I've come to terms with that now. I've forgiven that. And that's the most important thing for me. I've come to terms with that it wasn't them being difficult. It was just the way they were brought up. And for them, that was the norm. And getting a divorce is not the norm. And I'm the only one in my family to have got divorced. And hopefully the next generation won't really, because I think what I've seen is our generation, like this age range, there's such a difference in the way we were brought up and the way the guys have been brought up and the girls have been brought up. So this is where the disparity comes. Now, I've got 2 young boys and I have taught them everything. They can cook, they can clean, they can do everything. There's not that expectation when they get married, which is what the expectation is from our generation, that the woman does everything and goes out to work and has to look after the house. So I'm hoping the next generation are going to be more streetwise, more worldly in their expectations of what a marriage should be. Because unfortunately, the generation here, the middle one that have got the immigrant parents, they've got it wrong. unfortunately. And that's why so many marriages in the 40s up in our community are breaking down, because women are waking up, and unfortunately men are conditioned in a way by their parents to expect a certain way of marriage. And that's why the divorce rate for this generation is really high. But I'm hoping that's going to change with the next generation.
Mhm.
Who knows?
Awesome.
Sonia,
Sure.
if it's okay, I'd just like to commend you for sharing that, because what resonates with me is the impact of our cultural backgrounds, how that influences the way that we set our expectations for one another, and how it influences the way that we communicate. So, for example, if I have a client who wants to enhance their English and they say, well, I went on this job interview and I'm very self-conscious about my accent. And I would say, you know, that is something that you are experiencing because you maybe have been judged before, or you have this expectation that you will be judged, it will be negative, and perhaps not. But it's hard because it's really deep inside of all of us. You know, we have it in us. And so I commend you for being really honest and upfront, because it's so true. We're all affected by our culture. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think culture has a big part, and I don't at the time I actually really did blame my parents, and there was war in the house on a daily basis. Like every time I went over, my dad would actually say, Sonia, go home, like because me and my mum would be kicking off. But I was going from one fire into another fire. So I was like, where are you sending me? Send me back home where I've got my ex there and there's going to be war there, and I'm going there and there's going to be war there. So, but I have had to do a lot of work to understand it wasn't personal. It's
Right.
just the way they were thinking. And I've come to terms with that now. I've had to.
Awesome. Awesome. Shane, will you?
You're still
on mute.
muted,
You're
Shane.
still on mute.
Sorry, I was just checking I was on mute. That was all. Thank you for that, though, both of you, for your answers.
Okay.
All right. So if there are no more questions, speak now or forever hold your peace, as the saying goes. Laura, thank you so much. And no, I would not have known your difference. I will not say disability, your difference with cerebral palsy. I've known people with cerebral palsy, and some you can actually tell because of their mobility or lack of mobility. Yeah. But thank you for saying yes.
Thank you for having me. And it's wonderful to meet everyone here. And please, let's connect on LinkedIn. I would really like to be connected with both you, Sonia, and Shane. Shane, I want to hear more about that mountain climbing, because that is so amazing to me. And thank you so much for this opportunity, Carol.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you, Shane. Yeah, don't stop what you're doing. Age is only a number.
That's true.
That's right.
That's
Don't
true.
forget.
We keep going
Age
till
is
we're
only a
old, can't
number.
we? But thank you for the opportunity. It's been really nice to speak to you all. And I really appreciate it. Definitely let's connect on social media as well. I need to get better with LinkedIn, so I'll work on that.
Yes, you do.
I'm not great on
Yes,
LinkedIn.
you do. And Sonia, thank you again for sharing the nuggets that you've shared. It's just been a blessing this evening hearing from you, and thank you for giving up your time.
Well,
as
thank you for
well.
having me.
And the recording of this will go on Kashulia's YouTube channel at some point. I'm still waiting for October's to be uploaded, so at some point it will be there. But the live stream on my Facebook page is already there.
Great.
But the recorded one, you can just truncate down to your bit when it's uploaded. So it's been a wonderful evening. I thank you. and wishing you a wonderful upcoming weekend ahead.
Thank you all. Enjoy your
Thank
evening
you.
as well.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Pleasure
And
to
thank
you
you,
all.
Jag.
Bye.
Jagriti.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Keep making that difference.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.